This week in the Monday Night War, it is time for a bash, ladies and gentlemen. A WCW Great American Bash here in 1996. Happy Father's Day. We got Lex Luger versus the Giant for the WCW Championship. We've got Ric Flair and Arn Anderson versus Kevin Green and Mongo McMichael. And we got the debut of Rey Mysterio Jr., Romeo, SP3, Stephen Jensen. This is True Rewind.
This is True Rewind. This is True Rewind.
This is True Rewind. This is True Rewind.
This is True Rewind. This is True Rewind.
Hello. It is me, your True Hill Phenom, SP3. We are live on the True Hill Heat YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter for True Rewind episode 60, live with you. We are going to be discussing, we're going to get back into DeLorean, pump up the flux capacitor to 1996, the Great American Bash, a very important and crucial pay-per-view in the Monday Night Wars. This is where we go back in time to the Monday Night Wars between WCW Nitro and WWF Raw. We usually decide what the better show was for the week, but this time we have a classic pay-per-view and an esteemed colleague as our special guest. First of all, we have the ace in the face of the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, the conductor of reporting, Mr. Romeo Anthony Colon.
What is up, everyone? SP3, you and Drunk Guy JJ, you warned me, 1995, just wait. Eventually we're going to see something good, something a little entertaining. Finally, 60 episodes, finally.
Only took 60 episodes. We had to get through the Hulk Hogan Dungeon of Doom's storyline and feud. We had to, get the cruiserweights in here. We got one of the greatest cruiserweights debuting on this show. And of course, we have my main man, one of my favorite people to talk professional wrestling with, whether it be the present or the past. He is the host of the Weekender podcast over on Fightful Select. He is the host of Fight Talk podcast. He is Stephen Jensen.
Yeah, it's a great introduction. Thank you very much for that. It's great to be back on here with you guys. Looking forward to talking about this. And it's funny because as a kid, so I was born in 1988. As a kid, the storyline that got me into pro wrestling in 1994 was Hulk Hogan versus the Dungeon of Doom, which is like now, we all were just talking about it. It's like one of the worst storylines ever. But as a 6-year-old kid, it was cool. You know what I mean? I was like, what's happening? Because I didn't know the history of like these guys having, future or former lives and, the WWF and this stuff. So I was seeing it fresh as a 6-year-old kid, but I had a really good time rewatching the show, Great American Bash, to talking about with y'all. And yeah, this is going to be a good time. This was a really good show. So.
Like Romeo said, we've had to deal with like Fall Brawl on 1995, Steven. We've had to deal with, we just saw, Beware of Dog in Your House, with the blackout and everything. So to see this pay-per-view, it was a breath of fresh air for sure. But you guys know what to do watching. If you're with us live, throw your thumbs up on this video, share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family on all your favorite social media platforms. If you are new to the True Hill Heat YouTube channel, smash that subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. You can also become an even bigger supporter over on patreon.com/True Hill Heat. After this show is off, the live stream is done. You can check out over there for a special True Rewind 60 extra cut as Romeo and Ness watch Rey Mysterio versus Dean Malenko from the show. We will review it here. And of course, in the live chat, we want to hear your thoughts on the show, on our review, and of course super chat donations are always appreciated, and we will highlight your comment here on screen. But Romeo, you are the driver to DeLorean, the pilot. Take it away.
All right, it is June 16th, 1996. Happy Father's Day, live from Baltimore, Maryland. The attendance was 9,000 people. We opened with short backstage promos from all the major players. The best part was Brain telling Savage he's not scared, he's not worried, while being completely scared and worried.
Braid was really putting that over between this promo and the opener, and then later on in the show, you could hear the panic in his voice.
After the national anthem and the presentation of colors with Sergeant Craig Pittman, we got the announcers Tony Schiavone, Dusty Rhodes. They bring up the death of Dick Murdoch. And we start with the Steiner Brothers versus Fire and Ice in There Must Be a Winner. And this match, physical, to say the least. Norton almost dropped on his head by Scott Steiner. Well, pretty much
A few times.
Norton catching a flying Scott Steiner clean was pretty impressive.
Yes.
Rick had to kick Norton 4 times to break up a submission. Scott wins with a Frankensteiner that does not look pretty. Ice Train hilariously pins Rick at the same time. To his credit, Tony Schiavone said the Frankensteiner didn't catch Norton flush. This match went 10 minutes, 31 seconds. I enjoyed the physicality. The finish was, it got messed up, but hey, I gave this 3.25 stars. Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter gave this 3 stars. What did you think, Steven?
It's funny because, like, when I was watching this last night and they hit that, the bulldog, like when, Scott holds him up and Rick does the bulldog, I was sure that was the finish. I was like, okay, nailed their finish, like 1, 2, 3. And part of me was like, did they just go in and break that? Like, were they supposed to break that pin up? Because, like, that was like the perfect finish of the match. Everything made sense. Like, just end it there. And then they had to do that Frankensteiner at the end, like you said. And I'm glad they brought it. Yeah, that's him bumping for the Frankensteiner. For everybody watching right now, like Norton's head, and I love Scott Norton, but like Norton's head's supposed to be like in the mat right now, and it just kind of lands on top of Scott Steiner. Yeah, that's the pin right there for 3. So they would have been way better off just doing their double team finish that they normally used. But I mean, the Frankensteiner, as we'll talk about with when we get to the Rey Mysterio and Dean Malenko match, like at the time that was the Frankensteiner, right? That was like kind of like our minds were blown based on that. And then like we'll get to later on the show when they're doing some really crazy stuff. But yeah, I really like the match still. Like I'm a big Scott Norton fan. And Ice Train, like he wasn't terrible. He just wasn't around super long. Like it was one of those things where like he kind of showed potential, like because he was very similar to Scott Norton in a lot of ways. Like they could have been a good tag team, but it was also wild seeing like Rick Steiner literally just suplexing these dudes over his heads too. I mean, like I love the Steiner Brothers. They're one of my favorite tag teams. So this was fun to watch, but I wish the finish would have been their double team versus that botched Frankensteiner. So.
Totally agree with Jensen here. I was just like, why isn't the Doomsday Bulldog the finish? Because you could tell that they were running out of time, or they were told to like go home very fast because he like got him up real fast, hits the Frankensteiner. Ice Train doesn't even have enough time to get the pin. Like he does a short clothesline and then rushes to get the pin to do it at the same time. So it's like a little bit they're protected. Yeah, under the ropes at that. And yeah, I mean, I would have like the finish to be a little bit better. I gave it like 3 stars. I thought it was a very physically intense matchup here. So I liked a lot of it, especially Scott Steiner throwing guys around, and that freakish body and the freakish strength that he has is ridiculous. So this was a lot of fun, but yeah, the finish is what really hurts it.
Stephen, while we have you here, I do a little review show on Tuesdays. What do you think of the Steiner Kid on NXT?
Oh, Braun, what do they call him? Braun Breaker.
Braun Breaker.
I only watch NXT takeovers at this point, so I haven't really had much of a chance. But I will say this: like he went to college right up the street from where I live at Kennesaw State, so like he's kind of like was known as like this big football player. Rick Steiner like used to be pretty big in the community here. In like he's like on like the local like PTA and stuff, and does real estate. And Scott had a Shoney's up until the pandemic around here. So like the Steiners are like known in this area. So like I was aware that they had a son who was really good at football that played at Kennesaw State, because Kennesaw State's not really like known as a football school or anything. So to have like a breakout player from there. So I was hoping that he was going to go into pro wrestling because I had seen him before. He looks athletic. He looks like a Steiner. He sounds like a Steiner. But I haven't had a real chance of really watching him wrestle yet. I will say I'm happy. It sounds like they're kind of building the whole NXT 2.0 thing around him from what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just wish they were calling him really anything Steiner. I don't know why you would. Why? I mean, it's instant credibility when you hear that last name, and then it's like, tell me you're a Steiner without telling me you're a Steiner, right? The guy looks like him, he sounds like he wears the gear. Like I don't, but from what I've seen, he looks promising. I hope he does well.
He's the type of guy I could see Roman Reigns putting over at WrestleMania 39 or 40 to make him like the top star. We got Vala B in the live chat joining us. Thank you for joining us, good brother. Saying him 96 Norton was sus. We also got Uptown Avondale, the elite good egg saying brand breakfast. And Vala B saying you gotta say both the K's, man. And then he says Braun break. Gotta separate it.
Next up on the American Bash, Gene with Jimmy Hart and Kevin Sullivan. Something happens off screen, and Mean Gene tells someone to get out.
I love Mean Gene for never doing. He's not the type you tell to don't sell it because he sells everything. He sells everything that happens.
Sullivan then cuts a promo saying he got rid of the last horseman and showed them that Pillman was a quitter. Benoit isn't a horseman. This one is fun.
I love your Taskmaster impersonation.
Yeah. Well, and part of this promo too, like it's real weird when you watch like Benoit stuff retroactively, right? Especially because like we know what happens later on. But like it's so weird when like you hear, especially Kevin Sullivan and their history and all that stuff, and he's like, yeah, this Benoit guy is a real angry guy, and I'm just like, oh. Yeah.
Cringe.
Like, oof, it's cringe. Yeah.
He says after he drags Benoit around, he's gonna lean over and lay something on him. Same thing he laid on Pillman. A left. Gonna show on. They can count on the Dungeon of Doom.
I need you to do every Taskmaster promo now, please.
Oh man. WCW US heavyweight title. El Gato with some very creepy music versus Conan, the champ. Conan, innovative here. Big sunset flip, powerbomb to the outside off the apron. And then Conan follows with a jackknife slam in the corner and a bridge for the pin in 5:57. 2 stars for me. Not much from El Gato, just a nitro match. Meltz gave this 2 stars as well. I did laugh at Conan leaving, forgetting his titles. Come on, Conan. What'd you think, SP3?
This was the Conan that I first was introduced to, and he was like a beast in this US title division. Like he always beat whoever he was against. He was billed as like the biggest Mexican star. That's why it makes it totally baffling what they do with him post NWO. Like he's just basically one of the NWO members. And then after the NWO, they kind of try to get back to making him like this star. But if you see the buildup of early 96, it's totally confusing what they do with Conan during the whole NWO era of it. But this was okay. I gave it 2.25 stars. El Gato didn't really impress me, and I didn't call it a jackknife slam. I thought it was more of like an Alabama slam into the jackknife cover. But it was good stuff here for the short amount of time that we got.
Steven?
Yeah, it's wild because like I'm a huge WCW mark. I don't remember El Gato at all. You know what I mean? I was watching that. I was like, "What? I don't remember this guy." But Conan, like, it's so wild when you go back and watch this stuff and you hear the commentary on some of this, because you hear them and they're like, this AAA promotion out of Mexico, and like they're like, because a lot of the people watching like don't know, like a lot of at the time they're like, wait, Conan's like big in Mexico, but like, how do I watch that? Like, I remember watching AAA only when I was at friends' houses that had like the extended cable packages and stuff.
Yes.
And otherwise, I had no access to it, so I didn't know anything about it until I started seeing these guys in either ECW or WCW. And it is funny bringing that up, SP3 with Conan and the NWO, because they wind up kind of shifting him into like almost like a lackey for the NWO, but he was like a huge deal in Mexico, and they could have really pushed him as something bigger than just the guy who was like kind of trying to like ride the coattails of like Hall and Nash and those guys and stuff. So I mean, this was solid for what it was. And it is, being the WCW US champion at that time was a pretty big deal too. So you kind of figure that there was bigger things in line for Conan, but the match was what it was. It wasn't a whole lot, from like El Gato or anything. And I don't, like I said, I just don't remember the guy. So
he kind of had like a kind of like a tiger mask type of mask as well. So he seemed like he wasn't too sure what he was going
He
for
was
here.
one half of, and I don't know the other half, one half of the Orient Express.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. I remember them. They had a great match with the Rockers at, I think, Royal Rumble 1991, I believe it was. But yeah, I mean, not much here at WCW though. Frantic World says, "What's up, guys?" in chat. What's going on, Frantic World? Vala B says that Sullivan voice. Everybody's marking out for your Sullivan voice. We also got you, my boy Blue, saying loved Conan as a kid. You got to get the K in there, K Dog, man. And then Vala B saying, "Oh yeah, Conan U.S. title run was great." He said, "It's absolutely bizarre to me why he hangs out with Disco." We won't even go there. We won't even go there, ladies and gentlemen. And Untitled Aberdale giving us the information saying Pat Tanaka, El Gato, was really good in AWA as Bad Company. Who would have thought manager Diamond Dallas Page would have been a great wrestler? And that's a perfect transition, Uptown Averdale. Thank you for that.
But first, remember, this is 1996, folks. Mean Gene with Sting.
Oh, yes. This promo.
Yeah. Okay.
Gene instigated the whole thing. He said Lord Steven Regal comes across like a sissy or prissy. Sting then mocks the way Regal drinks tea and wondering about him if that's how they breed the boys in England. That ain't what we do with American men. You on U.S. turf and U.S. soil. You can take... God, I just can't say it, me, Gene. We're on TV. You take it for 1 second. Woo! That was cringe.
Oh, yes, it was.
Sting has a moment to gather and compose himself. And then he clarifies that he meant a fantastic wrestler. You could stop there, Sting. He's just a little iffy. He's unsure about Regal. If there's anyone that can
straighten him out,
it's the Stinger.
Oh my God, man!
Sting walks out, and Mean Gene wonders if he was too strong, saying he was a prissy.
Imagine if like these new generation fans, they get so upset about stuff that happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago. Then somebody said, imagine them watching this promo. We would get a hashtag cancel Sting on social media going.
That's all I was thinking when I was watching the promo. I was like, oh, don't cancel yourself, Sting. Don't cancel yourself, man. I don't remember this at all. Yeah, and he's even doing the thing where he's like, you sit around like a little sissy with your drinks. And I was like, oh, yeah, that right there. Exactly that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, but it is one of those things, right? I mean, this was no one ever like defends that, right? Like I obviously like we made a lot of progress in the world, like, and I'm happy with where we're at and where we're going and that things are changing, but like no one even batted an eyelash when it was like 1996 and you said this kind of stuff. Like no, not one person was like, oh man, he went too far with that promo. Everyone was just like, oh, I hope he beats up William Regal now. You know, it's like, so
25 years ago.
That's wild. But when I watched it last night, I was like, oh geez, this doesn't age well. Like I was with you guys for sure. Sting, what are you doing, man?
Was he gonna use like a vulgar word? I want to know what he wanted to say when he cut himself, when he stopped himself.
It was almost like he was proud that like he couldn't say what he wanted to. He was like, I would really go in on him if we went on TV right now.
SB3, any further thoughts on that?
No, you guys said it perfectly. Every thought that I had, this was cringe-worthy promo to watch in 25 years later.
Lord of the Ring, DDP versus Marcus Bagwell. DDP calls out the bimbos in Baltimore, get a load of him, and to forget about that chump, Carl Ripken. Tony This match starts. Tony tells a backstory about a film student finding DDP homeless on the campus of his college and then giving him the money to enter WCW again. Sid, this was the benefactor storyline payoff here?
That's the benefactor, a college student.
What?
That's the benefactor, a college student who was just trying to pay his tuition. He saw DDP on the side of the road. He was like, "Here you go. You can have my tuition."
Oh man, DDP with the diamond cutter and the pin, 936 self high five. I gave this 2.25 stars. Meltzer gave this 2.5. Steven, your thoughts?
I mean, this was solid for what it was because this is like a pre-buff Bagwell, Marcus Alexander Bagwell. This is also, I guess, pre or right around the time he was doing American Males because because I definitely remember them being at him and Riggs, and I was a big Scotty Riggs fan. I like both those guys, but I remember I think the first time I saw Buff Bagwell, it would have been him and Too Cold Scorpio teaming. So that would have been a little before this, as far as like a timeline in my head. And I remember them really trying to you could tell they wanted to do something with Bagwell. Like you could tell he was going to be figured into their plans. And Diamond Dallas Page kind of he was a manager and that's all anyone really saw him as. And then he kind of just started rising through the ranks around this time too, as a singles guy. So, I thought it was, a good match between two guys that obviously went on to have pretty big careers in WCW, and they were really getting over the diamond cutter too on commentary. Is this is his patented move that nobody kicks out of, and he even took a while to cover Bagwell. He hit the move, and it was a solid 10-20 seconds before he even went for the pin and still got the 3. So I thought this was all right for it. Was more of a showcase of kind of almost testing out how what should we do with DDP going forward? What kind of match is it going to be? What kind of reaction? And then we saw a big push for him not too long after this. So thought it was solid for what it needed to accomplish.
Yeah, Steven, we talked about this in the last episode. Sid, I can't remember though. This was supposed to be a New Japan wrestler jobbing to DDP, but I can't remember who. But then I know it was supposed to be Booty Man, and Hulk Hogan put the kibosh on that. So
there you go, Booty. I remember. See, that was another one where I did not know that that Brutus Beefcake had existed. I saw Booty Man. That was the first time I had seen that guy, and I was like, why is this guy friends with Hulk Hogan? Why is he just shaking his butt all the time? Why should I like this guy? And yeah, he was pretty bad. I wonder who the New Japan guy was he was supposed to wrestle initially. That's interesting. I didn't know that.
His theme song was "Shake, shake, shake your booty, shake, 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 shake your booty." Some of these WCW themes are either hit or miss. One of the hits is "American Males, American Males, American Males," and then they did the clap. That was great.
Then in ECW they took that and made it the clap, but as a double entendre for an STD.
Oh.
Gotta love ECW. And Vala B predicting that he thinks that it was Nagata that probably was the New Japan star. Maybe, possibly. I thought this match was perfectly fine. It felt like more of a showcase for Marcus Bagwell because I felt like he got a lot of offense in here. But yeah, they got over the diamond cutter being that's it. It's over when he hits that. And yeah, this is we're seeing the steam get behind Diamond Dallas Page because we, Steven, have had to see him in a feud with Johnny B. Bad over the diamond girl, the diamond gal, Kimberly Page. So we've been having to see that. Then he lost all his money to Kimberly, and now he's back after the college student gave him his tuition on the side of the road, and he's winning matches. So we are seeing the upward trajectory of Diamond Dallas Page here. But it was perfectly fine. Nothing too much to write home about. I gave this 2.25 stars.
It was the Great Muta. New Japan nixed it. They didn't want him jobbing to DDP.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go.
Yeah, why would we have Great Muta lose to DDP at this time? I don't know. Vala B talking about that promo saying the man called Sting gotta say it right. And he says, if you didn't cringe at that promo, I judge you. And Jeff Lopez saying this stream popped up in the middle of my YouTube shuffle right now after a DMX joint at the gym. Oh well. Hey, DMX and True Hill Heat, we go hand in hand together, especially with that Sting promo.
Oh man, Mean Gene with Jimmy Hart and the Giant. The Giant says, "Where my dogs at?" Just kidding.
He looked like he was about to say that.
He says, "If you think he's gonna be in the torture rack, you're sadly mistaken." Calls himself the one true immortal, and the chokeslam is all that Lex is gonna know. Very prophetic words. Next up, WCW Cruiserweight title, which means wrestling expert Mike Tenay joins us on commentary.
And Dusty Rhodes coming up with his bait. He said, I gave him the perfect nickname. It's original. I said, I am Mike. And I gave him a nickname, mate. I am Mike. Like, motherfucker, you got that from Mike Tyson. Shut up, Dusty. I love you, Dusty, but shut up.
Dusty was great.
Oh my God! This whole show, Dusty had me and my wife. My wife was watching with me, and we were dying. Especially when we get up to the False Count Anywhere match. I have a couple of his lines written down already. But go ahead, Romeo.
Dean Malenko, the champ, versus the debuting Rey Mysterio Jr. Rey's awesome music that once belonged to Loch Ness. Remember Loch Ness?
Yes, I do.
Ray, did any of you look it up how old Rey Mysterio is here? Well, they say it
20,
on commentary.
21 years old.
Wow.
Yep.
The Iceman, the man of 1,000 holds, and boy, did he apply a ton of them in this match.
He
It was
did.
interesting to see how many different rest holds he had in submissions. Ray yelling, "Get him off me," was funny. Nobody's going to get him off you. We learned that Black Tiger, Eddie Guerrero, won this year's New Japan Super Juniors tournament, beating Jushin Thunder Liger in the finals. Wow. Ray eventually goes full Mysterio, and it was wild. It was fun. That West Coast pop. Malenko kicks out of it. In the end, a hard powerbomb after counting a Hurricane Rana by Malenko, and he puts his feet on the ropes. You cheating bastard. Dirty finish, 17:55. I brought up Meltzer complaining that you could have Mysterio job in his first match, but it was dirty. I gave this 3 3/4 stars. Melt gave this 4 stars. And as Sid mentioned, you could watch this match on Patreon. Be a $3 backer. Go ahead, Sid.
My God, you guys terribly underrated this match. I at least gave it 4 4.25 because this match I would have not said it would look out of place on an AEW Dynamite, on an episode of SmackDown NXT, maybe on Raw because they don't give people that much time on Raw. But every other show nowadays in 2021, it would have not looked out of place. Dean Malenko is one of the more timeless wrestlers. I would say Dean Malenko, Bret Hart, Eddie Guerrero, you could put them in any time frame and they can probably have a great match, whether it be the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s, 2020, it doesn't matter. Dean Malenko did show that you can have basic rest holds, but you can still make it look like you're effectively trying to submit your opponent, and that's what he did. He had the key lock at one point, a double wrist lock. I love back in these days that tapping the mat didn't mean that you were tapping out. It just mean that you were struggling to with the pain, basically. I love the West Coast pop. I love the springboard flip to the outside. And my wife, by the way, on the West Coast pop was like, she was upset with the referee's cadence. She got into this match because she was like, the referee's counting so slow. Ray should have won here.
Because he does one, and then he brings his hand up and he does a little twirl.
Yes, it's ridiculous. Ray with the top rope Frankensteiner, which, like Steven said earlier, you can see Scott Steiner and he hits the Frankensteiner and everybody pops, but then you see it from the top rope from like a springboard position that Ray does. It's insane in 1996 that he's doing all this stuff. And then, like you said, the finish protected Ray so much. So yes, Meltzer's prophetic words of, "Oh, you're gonna job Rey Mysterio in his debut. That's not how you put someone over." This is how you put someone over in defeat very well. They protected him with the finish. He looked great. The crowd was on their feet towards the end of this match, and it peaked at just the right time. And this is why I think that Dean Malenko is probably Rey Mysterio's most underrated, underappreciated rival of his career, because we're about to see in this time frame, he had nothing but bangers with Dean Malenko around this time. So this was a great start to their feud.
Steven.
Yeah. it's funny, like when this match starts, because you know the crowd has no idea who Rey Mysterio is. He's just like the small dude in a mask, and Malenko is pretty established in WCW at this point, especially amongst like the smaller wrestlers. And it's pretty funny when you see like the match kind of gets going, and the crowd's like not really sure what to think of it, and then Ray does this like around the world arm drag.
Yes.
And the crowd's like semi-pro, where they're like, the first time they see an alley-oop, they're like, foul? 2 fouls? Like, what was that? Like, you know, like just like mind blowing. Like, we've never seen, and like even on commentary, they're like, we've seen arm drags, we've never seen an arm drag like that. Like, what the hell was that? And then yeah, it's like you start seeing Frankenstein from the top, the West Coast pop, and all this stuff. And that was literally the only complaint I have about the match. The match ruled, but it's like he hit all of his finishing moves, and we didn't know it at the time because we hadn't seen him before, but those were like all of his finishing moves. Like he would beat people later on with the West Coast pop, with the Frankensteiner off the top rope and stuff like that. And so Malenko kicked out of everything, but I thought like in defeat, this is how you get someone over. And I say that about AEW often. Like even if the person that's getting like a push doesn't win, as long as it's something like this where like it's really damn close and it's a good match, and then you know someone just barely beats the other, especially if it's a dirty pin like Malenko did here. Yeah. I mean this rules. I love this kind of stuff, and this was basically like it's kind of like Rey Mysterio's tryout. Like go out there, do your stuff. Let's see how it gets over. And then he probably got to the back, and they probably had a contract sitting right there for him. Like, dude, we need you every week from now on. Like I can't believe what we just saw out there.
This is like state of the art type of wrestling. A couple of comments we got to feature here. Vala B saying, speaking of WCW's themes, I'd say Jimmy Hart was like 50-50 with the themes he made. Yes, that is a good point. He was pretty good though. We also got Frantic World saying WCW had some weird moments back in the days, but definitely not this match. Vala B liking Dusty with the Iron Mike, Tenay, and Uptown Avondale saying WWE would have give them at least 6 minutes on Raw or SmackDown. And Vala B saying, I mean, Dean Malenko in general was underrated. Indeed. I feel like Dean Malenko has been at the tip of our tongues, Romeo, throughout this True Rewind run of like match of the night, show stealer, especially when he's in the ring with like Benoit, Guerrero, and now Rey Mysterio. It's just nothing but good stuff that feels like it's timeless, that you would see it now in 2021 and you would still say it was a great match.
Next up, we had a Luger promo with Gene. He says he's not going to yell or scream. It's very quiet. The Giant thinks he's invincible, and that works in his favor. The Giant is going to make mistakes. That should age well. Then we get a grudge match. Big Bubba with Jimmy Hart versus John Tenta. Hart on the apron with the scissors, not even looking at the action. Bubba jumps off the top rope, caught by Tenta for a power slam. 531. Meltz gave this 1 star. This did nothing for me. Big giant pile of poop. Dud. Tenta teases cutting something off of Jimmy. Bubba runs into Hart, and then Tenta cuts off Bubba's beard a little bit. SP.
I mean, way to get us right back down to earth. We got Dean Malenko and Rey Mysterio followed by this match. This was slow plotting, but thank God it was only 3 minutes. I love watching these WCW pay-per-views with my wife because Jensen, so you know, my wife works for WWE. She's the grand niece of Gorilla Monsoon, so she was very heavily WWF, pro WWF in her childhood. So when she sees stuff like this, she's like, oh, that's where they went. That's where Big Boss Man and Earthquake went. I was like, is this your first time realizing that? She was like, yeah. And why doesn't Earthquake shave the other half of his head? And I had to explain the whole storyline to her. So I love those moments here. And yes, John, tend to shave the rest of your head because it looks ridiculous at this point. But this match was there. I gave it a 0.5 star. They tried for what they were.
Yeah, the only impressive part about this match was Tenta catching Boss Man off the top. Like when he came off the top for that finish, I was like, okay, he caught him. Like at least there was that. But yeah, it's funny because commentary sitting there like when these guys come out, they're kind of comparing it to the last match, but they're being like yeah, these are way bigger guys than the last match we had. And I was like, yeah, but this match sucks. Like, why like, how do you not, like, are you that desperate to, like, you know, or you're already holding the little guys down by talking about this match is somehow good because these guys are bigger? Like, yeah, this match, it was no good. And then, like, the hair at the beginning where, like, you know, Jimmy Hart's got, like, the handful of hair and they're, like, pretending to cut it and stuff. Like, this is just bad story. This isn't good. And then the finish, like y'all said, where Jimmy Hart's just a total jabroni and he's not even looking at the ring and he's, yeah, we did it. We're going to win. And then, like, he gets in the ring and it's still a solid, like, 5 seconds of him looking at John Tenta on top of Big Bubba. He's, like, looking at him for a while and then he's like, puts 2 and 2 together. Oh, wait a second. We lost the match. It's like, oh yeah, this is just not that good. So yeah.
He's like realizing, like, oh, that's the other guy on top of my guy. Oh,
wait a second.
What are we doing here? Bala B saying Dean's a wrestler's wrestler, and he says, I loved Bubba, I love Tenta. This wasn't it, Chief. I agree. Definitely agree there.
Mean Gene with Steve Mongo McMichael, Kevin Green, and their wives, Deborah McMichael, Terry Green, all matching. Mongo says he don't care about a game plan. He don't care if the roof comes off. They coming to get Flair and Anderson, baby. Green. Man, these guys love saying baby. Green.
Baby, yes.
It's like the goal line, baby. He's coming hard and coming heavy. Watch out, baby. They're coming hard.
And then Macho comes in and cuts his promo.
They need to be more hype. They need to be more hype. It's not enough.
He cuts his promo, and then Green calls him baby. Like,
they probably saw these promos where they call each other brother and stuff, and they're like, all right, we got to have, like, a thing that we just keep saying over and over, and the fans will get it.
Moving on, baby. Falls count anywhere. Chris Benoit versus
this was another match that I absolutely loved watching, and there was just so many great moments. I will do the description if you want to add anything, Romeo, because I just love this match. It starts immediately in the entranceway. They fight through the crowd all the way to the corridor, then into the bathroom. I remember this as a kid. This was the first time I ever saw this, that I saw, like, someone wrestling all the way to the bathroom, and this is when Dusty Rhodes was like, I know True Rewind is watching this, and I'm gonna put in my ballot to be the MVP of this whole pay-per-view. He says, right into John, if you will. And then he starts marking out. He says, there's a lady in the man's bathroom. There's a lady in the man's bathroom. And then he says, go to the women's bathroom and see what's in there. Dusty was marking me out so much. He had me and my wife almost in tears. Shivani throws shade at Pillman at one point. I totally agree with Jensen. Watching Benoit stuff, when he gets shots to the head and when his head gets slammed into the bathroom door, that was one of those moments where I was like, well, there's your head trauma. Taskmaster knocks Benoit down the steps in the crowd as they fight back to the ring. Benoit gets a table under the ring when they get back to ringside. He sets it up on the top rope. Benoit hits a wicked superplex off the table on top of the ropes to get the pin. This was just so unique, totally different, but also a great match like the Malenko Mysterio match. I gave this 4 stars. This just had me just a big smile on my face the entire time watching this.
Yeah, I really like this one as well. And the crowd pops huge for that superplex at the end.
Yes.
Like that's something when you go back and watch this stuff that's always interesting. Like moves that are so basic that you see all the time now, but like you didn't see it that much then. Just how over just that kind of stuff was. And I was laughing my ass off of listening to Dusty Rhodes during all that. Also, that was so, especially the there's a lady in the men's bathroom thing, and I'm like, that's another like this like got like cancellation written all over this show. It's like because now you can't say that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. You know, so it's funny. So yeah, it's And it was Father's Day, and I don't remember him mentioning anything about like Dustin and Cody on commentary either. Like I was listening for it and I didn't hear it, and I was like, oh, that would be nice to hear a little shout out for your family. But yeah, man, I like this match a lot, and I used to really like the Taskmaster Kevin Sullivan. Like I know a lot of people, like he's kind of become more of like a meme like lately or more recent years. People don't really give him much credit, but when I got into wrestling, like he was the top heel in WCW. Like,
Yeah.
once again, it was corny storylines that like haven't aged great since, but like, so, and then especially when you know the history later on of Sullivan and Benoit and Nancy and all that stuff, it's very bizarre watching a match like this, but I thought the match was really, really good as well.
This match went 9:52. I wrote down these two went at it like they were sleeping with the same woman or something.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
It did feel like a real fight. Like there was already tension there.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, right? If you don't, like, Kevin Sullivan literally booked his way out of his own relationship. Like Kevin Sullivan put Nancy and Benoit together on screen, and then they wound up actually having an affair. So like, wild.
Crazy.
The men's room stuff was not planned. So, like, as you can see, this guy on the left is still pulling his pants up. What is going on here? I didn't ask for this. Afterwards, Arn Anderson ran down to pull Benoit off Sullivan so he could beat his ass too. And that popped. The crowd loved this. They ate it up. The Dungeon of Doom make a save. I gave this 3.5 stars. The crowd loved this. The commentary was great. The uniqueness that we haven't really seen a match like this in the Monday Night War, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, I was saying,
4 stars.
I was saying to my wife, I was like, yeah, they didn't really do this in WWF. Like, this is like the first time you would be seeing it, because, you know, she saw like the stuff in like the Attitude Era, but this is at least like 3 years before we see like Al Snow and Hardcore Holly go to the river and stuff like that, and you know, Austin getting jumped by the corporation in the bathroom. You know, this is 3 years ahead of all of that, so I give them a lot of credit for being innovative here.
And also, good call, Romeo, with the Horsemen reuniting, because that got like the biggest pop of the night up to that point too. Like when they all got in the ring and they helped Benoit at the end there. So yeah, the crowd went nuts for that.
Mean Gene with Woman and Elizabeth being very unprofessional, staring at women's breasts. Elizabeth's face. We've also got Arn, Rick, Benoit. Arn puts over Benoit, earning the right to be a horseman. They cut off the head of the snake with Sullivan. They're at war. Flair talks trash. Brain talks trash. Brain says Gene is insinuated that he is scared when he is not. Brain, great again. Rick adds, there's a lot of things Macho Man would like to do that he can't anymore, right, Liz?
Great line. This was just vintage Horsemen, just having a good time, just talking all the shit that they want to, and they're in that state, like we just said, they got the huge pop by the fans, but they're still heels, so they're kind of in like this tweenish role, because WCW, really the crowd was wanted to love the Horsemen, and that's why this is like perfect timing that they kind of reform. They're gonna do it in like a heel way, but soon after they're gonna become baby faces because of what the bigger angle is going on here. We got in the comments here, you my boy Blue say Kevin Green looking good in that jacket. Vala B,
Panthers fan.
Yes, he is. Vala B saying that's the part I remember from the match. There's a woman in the men's bathroom. He says it was on a TV highlight special, one of the oldest wrestling memories for me. And Valaby echoing what Jensen said, booked his own divorce. Uptown Avondale saying, looking back, the most confusing thing about Kevin Sullivan was him managing the varsity club. Why an evil guy be so enamored with guys who went to college?
Next up, Lord Steven Regal with Jeeves versus Sting, who also got a big pop. And Regal was sweating like Patrick Ewing in this match, man. Sweating all over the place. He was working.
He was sweating right in Sting's face. He was putting him in like headlocks, and like his sweat was just good. Sting was like come on, man. You're gonna peel my face paint off of your sweat, bro.
Is that manly man enough for you, Sting? Regal again killing it with the facial expressions and the charisma. A lot of mat wrestling from Regal until Sting makes his comeback, and Sting with the Scorpion Deathlock makes that prissy tap in 17 minutes 10 seconds. I gave this 3 stars. Dave Meltzer gave this 3.5 stars. Steven?
Yeah, I thought this was good. I mean, the fact that this was the longest match on the well, almost longest match, Malenko and Mysterio, and then the tag team match. But as far as just like a straight up one-on-one wrestling match, like I thought this was pretty solid. And it was also a good reminder too for me of like, I remember during this time of watching, there was like definitely like a hierarchy in my mind of like Sting's like way up here and Steven Regal's like way down here. But then when you watch a match like that, you're like, damn, Regal like could really go this entire time. And like, he never really got a really strong singles push until the WWE when they tried to like do the King of the Ring thing with him years later. And then that didn't pan out because of personal stuff. But this was a kind of a reminder of like, damn, they probably should have done something with Steven Regal in WCW because like this match was good. It had a lot of heat. And it's almost like he took that Sting promo, or like Vince McMahon saw that Sting promo, like whenever he signed Regal, and was like, "Prissy, he's a man. He's a man. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna prove how manly this guy is." And
I did not put 2 and 2 together like that. Wow, that makes all sense.
That's the evolution of becoming manly for Lord Steven Regal. And it didn't hurt that his former tag team partner Hunter Hearst Helmsley was in very well in the WWF at that time. But yeah, I thought this was really good. And obviously Sting winning, like no surprise there. Like Sting was the face of the company up to this point. And I know you'll get to it when we get to because we have like the Outsiders segment and stuff like that. But there was the underlying theme of this whole show too, of like, you know, the war's coming, and this was, you know, basically a month out from the whole world of wrestling completely changing. This was like a big, it kind of preempted a lot of that. So this really just kind of putting Sting in keeping him in that position. He's still like the face of the company. He's having great matches, and what's going to happen with this war between, you know, the Outsiders and WCW.
Yeah, you keep hearing WCW needs 3 guys.
Yes.
Sting's got to be at the top of the list.
Gotta be
number
Absolutely.
1.
I love when he first comes out and you hear the roar of the crowd and they immediately say he's the most popular guy in WCW, and this match and the way the crowd was behind him really showed that. I totally agree with Jedson that Lord Steven Regal deserves so much more. Like, it seemed like they were building him up on the way to this match, but we know it was just to, you know, make Sting's victory at the pay-per-view look good, because they really don't do anything with Steven Regal, especially when the Outsider storyline really gets up and running and becomes the focal point of the promotion. But he's one of the earliest examples, before the Benoits, before the Malenkos, the Guerreros not getting the push that they had and hitting that glass ceiling. I feel like Regal hit it before them, and that's why he went to to WWF, you know, just a couple of years later. But I thought this match was really good. I gave it 3 3/4 stars. Sting is just, he's one of my favorite all-time wrestlers, and that theme song, he's a man called Sting, like, how can you not get behind him with that theme song?
Coming in a couple of weeks, Bash at the Beach, July 7th, should be interesting.
Shouldn't nothing should happen on that show. Probably nothing. It's a nothing show. Frantic World saying Horseman for life, and Vala B saying that this was the last pay-per-view before the Bash at the Beach. Yes indeed, a major show for real. And he also says, who's the sweatiest sweaty guy, man in wrestling? Shane McMahon, IRS, or Regal? Who would be your choice, Jensen?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, based on what I saw last night, Regal, like, he was really like, it was unavoidable seeing him sweating into Sting's face like that. That was pretty good. So I'll go with Regal, but it's kind of recency biased.
Romeo?
I'll go Shane, but also on that list should be Goldberg.
Yeah, good call.
That is true. He does 2-minute matches and starts sweating. I'd go with Shane. I'll go with Shane McMahon.
Tag team grudge match: Flair and Arn with Woman and Elizabeth, and Coach Bobby the Brain Heenan versus Steve Mongo McMichael and Kevin Green with their wives, and Coach Macho Man Randy Savage, who also got a big pop. Michael Buffer here to call it Legends of the Gridiron versus Legends of the World of Wrestling.
This was one of the most detailed introductions I've ever heard Michael Buffer do. And Michael Buffer does intricate introductions, but this dude literally said Ric Flair coming out with the green robe with the yellow trim. I was like, this motherfucker is naming the trim on people. Even my wife was like, he's saying a lot of personal information. He's telling us Kevin Green is from Pittsburgh, but he currently resides in North Carolina. Like, you giving away his address now? Like, what the hell?
Said, I know you were happy to see the return of Pepe the dog.
Absolutely. I couldn't really see his Pepe.
I couldn't make it out either.
Yeah, I couldn't make it out too well, but it was a nice pop moment for to see Pepe for what seems like it will be the final time.
Stephen, we have Pepe fashion reports here on True Rewind usually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he had a lot of different outfits. He was balling. All right.
Yeah, that was always weird seeing Big Michael holding that little dog.
The crowd pops big for a double figure four spots on Flair and Arn. Women breaks it up, gouging the eyes of Mongo. Women and Elizabeth then chase Deborah and the other wife to the back because woman is just that intimidating. Macho Man starts attacking Arn when Arn helps Flair cheat during a figure four. That brings out Benoit to help Arn take out Randy. Deborah then comes back with women and Elizabeth in a nice pink dress. What's going on here? She has a briefcase. She presents it to Mongo. And in the briefcase, a Horseman shirt and a lot of money. She pleads her case, pun intended. Green pleads for a tag, and Mongo hits him in the head with the case. Flair pins Green, dirty finish, 20 minutes, 50 seconds. And the new 4 Horsemen attack Macho Man. Flair with a very soft briefcase spot.
Tapped him on the head.
They celebrate. Mongo shakes Bobby the Brain's hand. After months of arguing with him every single Monday, he just wanted a little money. A little money. He wanted to be a horseman.
But I love the foreshadowing that they did with Tony Schiavone saying why he left the Chicago Bears to go to the Green Bay Packers. He said it earlier in the match. He was like, they paid me more money. And that was a great payoff that I didn't really remember. Like, I knew this was the match where Mongo turns and joins the Horsemen, but I was like, they have to make it make sense because, like, a lot of times when they do these type of turns, the guy's wrestling the whole match and then out of nowhere, he just decides, hey, I'm going to turn now. This one made the whole bunch of sense because they set it up with the foreshadowing when they talked about that. Then the money, then you see him check the money. This dude went intricate. He like this is real bills. He's like, this is real bills. Let me decide. It's the moment of truth. I'm going to either decide to go with the Horseman or I'm going to tag in. Blasts him. It just made perfect sense. I love the match. I think Kevin Green looked great. He's a much better wrestler than Mongo to me. Like, Kevin Green showed a lot from his selling to even his offense. The energy that he had in the ring was really good as well. I gave this 3.25 stars.
Yeah, I thought this was pretty. I mean, for what it was really good. Like, for what I knew what it, I remember this being the match where Mongo turned as well. So, like, I knew it was coming, but they could have done it like in a shorter amount of time. I don't think they needed to do like a full 20 minutes for this, but like at the beginning of the match, I definitely noticed before the match started and you had Mongo and Kevin Green in the ring and the crowd's kind of trying to get into it. And Randy Savage is doing everything he can. He's up on the ropes doing his thing. And like, he's out in the crowd, like giving everyone high fives and like getting everyone all pumped up. And like Randy Savage he was just the man. Like I credit Randy Savage as the reason, like I got like hooked on pro wrestling as a kid. Like he was my favorite guy. And, you got a massive pop for this, which was nice. And then, like you were saying, SP3, like the story made sense and all the foreshadowing, and there was like an actual payoff. And this was good, and it would just progress the story and got the 4 Horsemen with McMichael and all that stuff. And I can't remember how long it is before Malenko joins in with them, but that has to be coming soon too.
I believe it's like the either late 97 or late 98. Because I think
after.
yeah, I think Kurt Hennig comes into play before Malenko.
Okay, I couldn't remember the timeline there, and then Hennig turns during War Games. I remember that. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, for two non-wrestlers, like they did pretty well. Green and McMichael. So, yeah, but it was one of those things too. When I was watching it, I think at a certain point, like maybe 10 minutes or so in, you had the pictures up, but like when they're in the double figure fours. I was like, oh, this was, if there was no story attached to this, they should have just ended the match there. Like the crowd was like going nuts for it and like could have just ended it there, but you had to get to the Mongo turn. So, I get it.
For me, Green and Mongo's offense wasn't typical, of course, but it worked and it passed because a lot to Arn and Rick selling. Great job by them. And you guys say the finish makes sense. Yeah. I mean, Mongo's like a heel now, and it's great for him because I don't want to cheer for him anyways. But to me, it's like I still cringe. I laugh, cringe a little. It's laugh out loud funny to me that you went through all that. He's talking trash about your wife, and then you just sell out. You little bitch.
Well, Deborah's the one that pitched it to him, though.
Yeah, true. And I also want to throw out there that like this version of Ric Flair is really like when I think of Ric Flair, the first thing I think of is like the green trunks and like this version of Flair, because this is like when I got into wrestling. So like I always felt like I don't know, I always thought that was a cool look for him in the green, and he just never really did it like outside of like a short time in WCW. So I would like to see more of that. I want a good really good action figure of that, actually, to be honest. They have a basic Mattel figure of him in the green, but I want a WWE Elite or Ultimate in the green. So if anyone's listening, I want one of those.
Hey, you know it. He's gonna give his social media at the end here. We got a couple of comments here. Uptown Avenue with a very good shout. Amen Johnson was the sweatiest wrestler ever. I agree there. That is a really good shout out there. He also says Steve McMichael was terrible on commentary, so naturally they put him in the ring to become the worst wrestler in the history of wrestling. Valabi says you say that, but I don't think he's the worst horseman. He says that would be Paul Roma, which I have to agree with.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
3 stars for me, 3.5 for Meltzer. Eric Bischoff introduces, well, he doesn't say their names, but there's Scott Hall and Kevin Nash.
These guys, you know who we're talking about. Come on out.
They've got their match that they wanted at Bash at the Beach. Well, it's made official for Bash at the Beach. They clear things up to avoid lawsuits. Yes. Do you work for the WWF? It's like they were on trial. No.
Because as you're pointing out, like this, for anyone listening, like this was in real life. Like apparently they were playing these contracts against the WWF still. Because like the WWF, this is when they were doing the fake Razor and Diesel and stuff, and people thought they might actually either be still employed by the WWF or were heading back to the WWF. So they had to actually get on television and like do this interview. And I think this, like you were saying, Romeo, I think this was like legitimately done for legal reasons.
Scott Hall wants to know who Eric's 3 guys are: the Nacho Man, the Huckster. Bischoff won't say, so he gets punched and jackknifed through the stage. Scott says the real big boys just left the building. This was great.
Excellent angle. I love this. This was like one of the first times that I've seen anybody go through like a table like that. Like, you know, we probably have seen like the table that Benoit had earlier in the show in like ECW, but nothing like by the staging area or someone going through the staging area, which would kind of be Eric Bischoff's thing when you think about years later when Kane took off his mask and he got put through the stage table then. But this was just a great angle, continuing on the intrigue in the whole angle with Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. We still have not gotten the names. I thought we got the names here, but they're still not calling them Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. They're still leaving it ambiguous, although they did confirm they don't work for WWF.
Yeah, and yeah, props to Eric Bischoff for like like you said, he's taking some gnarly bumps. Like not only does he take those bumps, a lot of the time he lands like not great too. He kind of like lands in like his head. So like but it was the same kind of thing. I remember watching this as a kid, and I don't know if y'all are familiar with MLJ. He does the ring announcing for GCW. I had him on my podcast a while back, and he brought up how when he was a kid, and I could relate to this, and you guys might as well. As a kid, it's like I knew wrestling wasn't real, but there were like aspects of it where it was like the way that he put it, he would like study the companies, and he was like, when I was a kid, I thought that WCW was 75% real, the WWF was 50% real, and ECW is 90% real. You know what I mean? It's like you do like play this mental gymnastics in your head. Like I know it's not all real, but like, and that's kind of the vibe you get when you watch something like this, where you're like, wait, the president of the company who isn't a wrestler just got powerbombed by these guys who like may or may not actually work here. Like what? And it really, especially as a kid, it really drew my interest. So I remember I couldn't watch pay-per-view at the time. I had to like watch this stuff on like VHS or whatever. But this was also when the internet was like starting to become a thing that I could use. And I know this is fast forwarding a little bit, but I remember reading the results of Bash at the Beach 96 because I couldn't watch it. And I remember reading what had happened in the main event, and like all I could think about was like, oh my God, I need Nitro to start because I need to see what happened and what this is. And but this
that is an interesting way to absorb that information.
Well, yeah, I had to for all this stuff. It's like I'm like I remember reading it and like reading like 3 or 4 times over, like Hulk Hogan leg drops Randy Savage. Like, what? What are you talking about? And so like I had to wait for Raw to like see, or for Nitro to like see any of what they were talking about, or I think I was in denial. Like whoever was writing this report was a liar. You know, like there's no way Hulk Hogan's turned on me. There's no way. But yeah, this was a really, really great storyline at that time. And to have Eric Bischoff take that powerbomb, I think really put that storyline over the top and really piqued interest. Because once again, like we've been saying, this is the last pay-per-view before the Bash of the Beach pay-per-view where everything changed. So I thought this segment was fantastic. A legendary segment.
Yeah.
And also good job by Tony and Dusty. Tony goes to check on Eric as Dusty cuts a promo on the last 2 segments.
Everybody sold this very well, because even if you notice with the main event, both guys coming out for the main event kind of look over there and sell it like this was not supposed to happen. And I totally agree with what Jensen was saying with his podcast with MOJ. Definitely go out of your way to check that out. But I would say from this pay-per-view all the way until like December 1996, you could have fooled me that this whole NWO thing was the realest thing in wrestling, because I legit, a lot of the stuff they were doing, like when we get to after Bash at the Beach with the beatdowns in the backstage area, especially at in Orlando when they did that one, that was just crazy.
Yeah.
Yes, that was crazy. Roddy Piper coming in, like there's just a bunch of stuff that's about to happen where this was like peak WCW in my opinion.
From the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Scott Hall's attorney is claiming that most of the man rooms Hall used as Razor Ramon were originally used during his first WCW run as Diamond Stud. Hall is also threatening legal action to get the money that WWF is withholding from him. Diamond Stud, Razor Ramon?
Take that money.
Dude, I don't know if I've ever seen somebody age in reverse more like Scott Hall. You know what I'm talking about? Like, do you remember him in like AWA? If you ever see any of that, he's got like the mustache. Mustache. He looks like 50 years older than like he was, and then he kept looking younger over the years. Like I never got it.
I know one person, Fit Finley. Finley, because he had the mustache and he has the mullet, and he looks like he's like at this time he's like 50 years old, 60 years old sometimes. And Eddie then Guerrero, when he gets the blonde hair, Eddie Guerrero's another one.
Example. I think a lot of it's the mustache. It's gotta be like that. Yeah. What was the actual? Oh yeah, Scott Hall. I mean, it was pretty similar to the Diamond Stud thing, but it was the accent. I think that was really that was the kicker. I think was like because he dropped the accent like not long after debuting in WCW, but everything else I don't think you could really call Razor Ramon. You know what I mean?
It's true.
WCW Championship the Giant versus Lex Luger. Luger shows concern for Bischoff during his entrance. The Giant, not so much. He's on business.
He looks over there. He's like, oh, okay.
Jimmy Hart is about to interfere with his megaphone. Sting runs down to make the save, chasing him to the back. The Giant wears down Luger for the majority of this match. Lex tries to make a comeback, chopping Giant down to a knee. Giant then misses a splash in the corner. Luger kicks him there while he's hung up, goes for the torture rack, which brings the crowd to their feet. But Luger collapses from the weight, and then Giant finishes him shortly after with the chokeslam in 9:30. Clean, decisive. Afterwards, somebody throws something at the Giant, and he launches that shit right back into the crowd. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
That was great. You can't do that, Giant. You got to learn. Someone's going to talk to you backstage. You can't do that. Short, told a story, but not much here. I gave it 1.25 stars, as did Dave Meltzer. SP?
2 stars. If this wasn't for the WCW Heavyweight Championship, I would have definitely said that the tag team match would have been better as the main event because it had more of like it felt important with the finish. This felt like, yeah, Luger probably had a chance, but I didn't really feel like ever he was really going to win here. I mean, his little offense at the end was okay. Him picking up Giant for the torture rack and the way the crowd got up is like a foreshadowing to how the crowd will react for the torture rack from here on out. Like the torture rack is probably one of the most pop worthy finishers in WCW during this time, so that was cool. But Giant was just on the run of his career for WCW because with the angle that's going on, it's all going downhill from here.
Yeah, and I mean, this match was essentially just, I mean, like it was all Giant up until the very end. Like Luger got like no offense in. The crowd went nuts, like y'all said, for him putting him up on the torture rack. And the way they set it up was smart because Giant was like laying stuck up on the top rope. So Luger, there you go. So Luger could get up right underneath him. And I actually say this to this day pretty often. I don't know why nobody, especially in mainstream wrestling, nobody uses the torture rack as a submission hold anymore. Like it was so over. I remember me and all my friends in elementary school used to always, that was like our thing. We'd always try to put each other up in the torture rack and be like Lex Luger. One of the most epic things in my childhood was Lex Luger beating Hulk Hogan for the title on Nitro with that torture rack. Like people went nuts for that move.
They got a woman on NXT who just debuted it, Ivy Nile.
Oh yes.
Okay.
You're right.
She's using that as her finish.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. It's been way too long since someone's been doing that. Because now it's more of like a setup usually, right? They put them up on your shoulders. You might get a couple little things here or there, but then they're going to twist it into something else or fall back or whatever.
The crowd just would eat that up.
Yeah.
The only variation that I do like is I don't know if you remember Stephen when early TNA when Abyss used it as like a backbreaker. That's like the best variation that I've seen of it in modern day.
Yeah, good call for sure. So yeah, it was also like when this match ended, did y'all notice how like the match just kind of ends and then the Big Show just or the Giant just kind of like walks away and the show ends? Like there's no like big like climax to like the show or even like next month make sure you're watching Bash at the Beach. It's going to be very important. But it was,
I don't know, were they still trying to sell maybe the Bischoff thing? I guess I don't know, probably not.
Well, but yeah, I guess, but it was just strange how like the Giant wins and then just like, all right, y'all, that's it. and the Giant just kind of like takes his title and walks off, and like everyone just and like I don't know. Once again, a lot of this show was really just kind of like a means to an end. Like it was like we want to put on a good show, which I thought this was a good show, and they got some new talent on there, like kind of foreshadowing who they may be pushing coming up soon. But it was so focused around Bash of the Beach. Like, what's the big thing that's going to happen at Bash of the Beach? Who's going to defend WCW's honor at Bash of the Beach? And, you know, I like the Giant a lot during this time as well. You mentioning, you know, somebody going up to him and being like, hey, you can't just be throwing stuff back into the crowd. He probably heard that a lot back then, like stuff he couldn't do, because there's also all these stories about Hulk Hogan going up to him and being like, brother, you're doing moonsaults off the top. We can't be having that. Like you're out there doing drop kicks. We can't be having that. Like I do the leg drop thing, like where I barely get off the ground. Like you start doing this, you're gonna kill the business. So and it's so funny when you look at a lot of this stuff too, where you have like Hulk Hogan constantly throughout his career, like holding other people down, right? Like just like not doing what's best for like the future of wrestling. And then you have Randy Savage on the other hand, literally like doing whatever he can to put other people over. But then when Savage and Hogan would wrestle, Hogan would never put him over. I always hated that so much.
Me too.
If I'm sure you guys watched like the most recent Dark Side of the Ring, where it's Johnny Canine is going to wrestle Savage, you know, at Smoky Mountain, and he goes in there, and on his own call, he's like, "Who's this new guy you're trying to build? All right, I'll let him beat me. That'll help your company out." Same thing with DDP. You know, when they had their big match, it was like everyone assumed Savage was going to lose, and they're sitting in the locker room, and Savage is like, "I feel like taking the Diamond Cutter tonight." And DDP is like, "What? Like you want to lose to me?" Like, so it's such a because even in this show, the reason I bring it up is Savage was out there trying to help make Kevin Green and Steve McMichael look better. Like he was constantly trying to make people look better. And then you had Hogan on the other side just holding everybody down. So it's worth mentioning, I think.
Two different ways of looking at the business from those two gentlemen.
Yeah. You just really wish that Savage would have ever gotten that moment over Hogan, and it just never happened, which just I'll never get over that, I guess.
Sid, you gave your thoughts on the main event, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's wrap this up. 2 dirty finishes. We'll do match of the night, MVP, LVP, thumbs up or thumbs down, and we'll rate this on a scale of 0 to 10, and we'll guess the pay-per-view buys it did. Match of the night, unanimous, Mysterio, Malenko.
Yeah, unanimous.
Yeah, for sure.
MVP, I will give to Dusty Rhodes for commentary, and also all 4 members of the 4 Horsemen. Sid?
I got to go with the Horseman. The Horseman, I was going to say Benoit on his own, but then I was like, nah, that angle was great after the Green and Mongo versus Arn and Flair. So, yeah, the 4 Horsemen are my MVPs.
Yeah, I got to go with them as well.
LVP, I have to give, even though he won, that promo, Sting.
I'm gonna go with his WCW World Tag Team Champion partner Lex Luger, once again talking a big game in his promo and then losing in the big match.
I'm gonna go with Big Bubba Rogers because his own manager didn't notice him losing, and that whole match just wasn't good, and it didn't do anything for anyone.
We all agree this is a thumbs up pay-per-view.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Which is history here on True Rewind. This is the first time I've given any pay-per-view we've watched a thumbs up. So we'll rate it on a scale of 0 to 10. I will give this a 6.1, which is far and away beyond anything I've given in the Monday Night War. Dave Meltzer said at the time, this is the single best pay-per-view show ever. Sid?
Whoa. I won't deny that. Like I always remembered this. I had fond memories of this as one of my favorite WCW pay-per-views, right up there with it's more NWA, but Great American Bash 1989, because I went back and watched that, and that's another one that's just a timeless pay-per-view. And of course next month with Bash at the Beach, but this is very, I think, overlooked as one of the best pay-per-views WCW picked together with Malenko and Mysterio, Sullivan and Benoit, the tag team match, and the angle afterwards, the Nash and Hall angle as well. Yeah, I gave this a 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm right around where you're at, SP3, especially because like I give it a bump for nostalgia because once again, this is around the time I got into wrestling, and like when he rewatched that and just the WCW crowd and the kind of the whole vibe of everything, and even the way the ring sounds and stuff, it just I just nostalgia rush when I watch it. I got a dock at some points because like the Tenta and Bubba match like wasn't great, and here and there it wasn't a perfect pay-per-view, but Yeah, I'll go like a solid like 7.7, which like, you know, for me to get into like the nines is like almost impossible. You know what I mean? So like, I think 7.7, that's a really damn good pay-per-view. And if you haven't watched it, I'd recommend going back. It still holds up. There's a lot of stuff you can watch on this show right here. Like y'all were saying, that you could plug into an AEW Dynamite right now and it would still work to this day. So I'll rock a 7.7 on this one.
Let's guess how many pay-per-view buys this did. For reference, the last WCW pay-per-view, Slamboree, did 155K. Sid?
I think they did a better job of building this pay-per-view up beforehand. So I'm not going to go too high, but I'm going to go somewhere in the middle of where I think like Bash at the Beach got. And this, I'll go with 175,000.
What did you say the previous pay-per-view had gotten?
155.
Oh, I'll go. Yeah, I guess I'll go 200. But yeah, I really have no idea.
Sid is closer, 170K.
Okay, there you go. So at least they grew the audience, but
yeah.
What did Bash at the Beach get? Or are you guys going to save that for when you review it?
Yeah,
we're
looking forward to seeing how much that gets.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You want to guess, Steven?
Bash at the Beach? I mean, I would hope it would be over 200,000, given like, you know, what happens that night and like the big build and potentially getting crossover WWF fans to watch it and stuff like that. So this was 170. I'll say 220 for that one. Hopefully higher. I hope it's higher.
They'd be thrilled with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's going to do it for Great American Bash 1996.
What a show to review. We want to thank Jensen for joining us. Like I said at the top of the show, one of my favorite people to talk professional wrestling with or talk anything with. We got some plans for sure. And check out our Mighty Ducks podcast. And we got something planned for you guys, for people that like, outside of professional wrestling, different shows. Me and Jensen have been vibing in the DMs as far as another show that we want to do a podcast on. A couple of comments to highlight here before we sign off. Vala B saying that that Spring Stampede match DDP and Macho had was such a great story to hear, and he said he had a Great American. He said it had actually 170,000 buys, not 120. Vala B, and then Frantic World saying good review, guys. See you on the next one. But Jensen, please let the people know where they can find you on social media, sir, and anything else you got going on.
Thank you guys for both having me on today. This was a lot of fun. I always enjoy doing this kind of stuff. You got my socials below me. Thank you. Fight Talk _ FIGHTTALK _ You can follow me on Twitter there. Fight Talk fans page. Just kind of use that to help promote the podcast and stuff that I do. So feel free to follow me there as well. If you want to listen to me talk about independent professional wrestling, really a ton of just different wrestling stuff and my opinions on GCW, NWA, Impact, Ring of Honor, a whole bunch of stuff. The Fightful Select Weekender podcast. Check that out. It's part of the $5 tier. You get my podcast. You get Alice Pulaski Sour Graps. You get multiple shows per week from Sean Ross Sapp. And of course, you get all the news that Sean Ross Sapp drops, which I think is worth the price of the service alone. Plus, you get all the other stuff. So check that out. The next thing I'll be doing on the internet here is going to be tomorrow night. I've got a weekly show every Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern with my friend Doug called Live Rounds. We talk mainly All Elite Wrestling and mixed martial arts, and then if there's any big boxing going on. So it's kind of a mixture of MMA, boxing, and professional wrestling. That's every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern. The channel is RVD Tito for Life, RVDTITO, the number 4 LAFE. And I do shows with Jesse Davin weekly. Just depends on when we're both free. That's youtube.com/JSSIDAVIN. And anything else I got going on, I'll also keep updated on my Twitter at Fight Talk _ And thanks again, guys, for having me on.
As always, we love having you on, Jensen, for sure. And
sorry. Let me plug one more thing that I completely forgot. This Saturday, Fightful or youtube.com/Fightful, myself and Jeremy Lambert will be reviewing Impact's Bound for Glory, AEW Dynamite, because they're both on the same night. I'm still waiting to hear back if we'll be including the GCW Suzuki versus Gage show, because that's also got SGC and the Briscoes. If we're not doing that for Fightful, I'll be hitting you up, SP3, to see if we'll be doing a standalone show or if they want me to do it for the Weekender. I just don't know where they want me to review GCW this weekend, but I'll definitely be watching. But for sure, we'll be doing Bound for Glory and Dynamite, myself and Jeremy Lambert, youtube.com/Fightful. So thanks for letting me throw that out there too real quick.
What a Saturday we got. It's going to be so much professional wrestling going
There's
on.
a UFC show. I mean, there's a ton of stuff going on.
Romeo, please let the people know where they can find you here or on social media, sir.
True Hill Romeo, Twitter and Instagram, right here tonight. After all, Rated Raw Superstars number 23. Tomorrow night, NX3 number 28. Thursday afternoon, a Crown Jewel watch along with me, SP3. I've already submitted his name. He is got part of the cast. He cannot find his way out of it.
Under protest, ladies and gentlemen. This is under protest that he's saying that I have to do this watch along because it says a reasonable hour. I don't do the late night watch alongs because I have 2 1-year-olds, but he's forcing me since it's the afternoon. I might be an hour or so late, but I'll be here. I will be here under protest, but I will be here for sure. You can also see me on Friday on Dark Side of the Ring review with Miss Chrissy Love as we review the XPW episode. Saturday, I think Romeo's also doing a watch along, so you can watch, AEW Dynamite and Bound for Glory with Romeo and the gang, and then jump over the Fightful and watch Steven and Jeremy review it. So it's the perfect combination there. And as someone who is a Fightful Select subscriber myself, it is one of the best values out there, and you guys are like the template when it comes to Patreon. But you can also become a supporter of the True Hill Heat Patreon, patreon.com/True Hill Heat. Romeo and Ness watching Rey Mysterio versus Dean Malenko is going to be up today. Tomorrow we'll have an NBA regular season preview with myself and Chris G. We're going to be breaking down who we think is going to be in the playoffs and the play-in, the awards, the NBA finals, and the winners. And my fantasy team is going to whoop Romeo's ass this week. Just want to mention that as well.
Yeah, you better study up, young Padawan.
And Frantic Rail saying good luck watching that pay-per-view, SV3. Thank you. I appreciate it. And you can find me on the Twitter machine at True Hill SP3. Follow the gang, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at True Hill Heat. Hit the subscribe button. This Saturday, True Hill Heat 148 with Stephanie Hypes as our special guest. And check out True Hill Heat 147 with the boys from the NWA podcast on Pulse Wrestling, as we did an all-black wrestlers past and present fantasy draft. And I can't even blame my partner for this loss, but we will come back with the third fantasy wrestling draft, and we will get the W, ladies and gentlemen. So like this video, share this video with all your wrestling fans, friends, and family. Push the subscribe button, hit the bell to stay notified for all the great content here. For Stephen Jensen, for Romeo, it is me, your True Hill Phenom SP3. This has been True Rewind, episode 60, WCW Great American Bash 1996. We are signing off until next time.